What if I told you there is an ancient code of wealth hidden for thousands of years, and it was revealed by the wisest and richest man who ever lived? Today, you're going to discover the 7 wealth lessons of King Solomon. A king so wealthy that his fortune has been estimated in the billions, and so wise that rulers traveled from all over the world just to hear his counsel. But here's the big question. What did Solomon know about money, prosperity, and success that most people still don't understand? What principles allowed him to achieve such abundance? And even more importantly, can you apply those same laws in your life today? Stay until the end, because the last lesson may completely change the way you see wealth. Before revealing these lessons, you need to understand why Solomon is worth listening to. King Solomon was not born wise. He asked for wisdom. When God appeared to him in a dream and offered him anything he desired, he did not ask for gold. He did not ask for power. He did not ask for armies. He asked for wisdom. And that decision changed everything. God not only gave him discernment beyond any man in history, he also gave him riches, honor, and prosperity. During his reign, Israel experienced peace. Its trade flourished. His kingdom accumulated great wealth. Kings and rulers came from distant lands just to hear his counsel. Even the Queen of Sheba was astonished by his wisdom. And it doesn't stop there. Solomon recorded these principles in the book of Proverbs, a practical manual on money, discipline, decisions, and prosperity. So what you're about to hear is not opinion. These are principles tested by the wisest man in history. Now pay very close attention, because if you apply these 7 lessons, not only can your relationship with money change, but your decisions, your discipline, your mindset, and your future can change as well. These principles are not just meant to be understood. They are meant to be practiced. And when you practice them, results begin to appear. Maybe what has been holding back your prosperity is not a lack of effort, but a lack of principles. And that can change starting today. Because one single idea, applied correctly, can transform an entire life. Now that you understand why the wisdom of King Solomon has endured through generations, it's time to reveal the 7 principles that shaped his wealth, his influence, and his success. Lesson 1. Trust God, not money. The first principle Solomon teaches is powerful. Never treat money as your source, because it isn't. God is the source. In the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon says the one who loves money is never satisfied. And in the book of Proverbs, he declares that it is the blessing of the Lord that brings wealth. That changes everything. Because wealth does not begin in a bank account, it begins in mindset and trust. When someone believes money is their security, they live in fear of losing it. But when they understand God as the provider, they begin to act with peace, vision, and purpose. This does not mean ignoring work. It means putting the eternal before the material. Ask yourself this: are you chasing money or building principles? Because when you seek the source first, resources begin to follow. True prosperity begins where the right trust begins. Lesson 2. Diligence creates wealth. Solomon teaches that prosperity is rarely an accident. It is the fruit of diligence. In the book of Proverbs, he says lazy hands lead to poverty, but diligent hands produce wealth. There is a difference between wanting abundance and building abundance. Many want to harvest. Few are willing to plant. Diligence is the bridge between faith and results. It is waking up with purpose, repeating the effort when there is no applause, remaining consistent when others quit. God honors committed work. Discipline produces skill. Skill produces value. And value produces reward. So stop waiting for a big breakthrough and start mastering small daily actions. Your routine is shaping your future. Ask yourself, are my habits leading me toward prosperity or scarcity? Because successful people do not win by accident. They win through consistency. And according to Solomon, consistency is a pathway to wealth. Lesson 3. Giving increases wealth. This may be the most counterintuitive lesson of all. The world says, hold on tightly if you want more. But Solomon teaches the opposite. In the book of Proverbs, he says some give freely and yet grow even richer. It sounds like a paradox, but it is a principle. Generosity does not reduce resources, it expands possibilities. Giving breaks a scarcity mindset. It trains your heart to trust, and it creates room for multiplication. This applies to money, time, opportunities, and help. Generous people build relationships, reputation, and favor. And all of these create prosperity. Maybe you think, if I give, I will have less. But the better question is, what if what you are holding back is preventing what you could receive? Start small. But start. Be intentional in generosity. Because closed hands receive nothing. Open hands plant seeds. And every seed carries the potential of a harvest. Lesson 4. Avoid debt. Now comes a hard warning. Solomon says in the book of Proverbs that the borrower becomes servant to the lender. In other words, debt can become slavery. And this is where pain enters the story, because many ignore this until they realize they are trapped. Debt steals peace, drains energy, limits choices. You end up working to pay for the past instead of building the future. And it affects everything. Decisions, relationships, freedom. True prosperity is not only earning more, it is having margin, having control, having options. So face this principle with courage. Stop normalizing a life financed by obligations. Make a plan. Cut excess. Prioritize getting out of what holds you captive. Imagine what life would feel like without that burden. More peace. More freedom. More power to build. Because wealth is not only what comes in. It is also what you can preserve. And financial freedom begins where slavery ends. Lesson 5. Laziness produces poverty. Solomon does not soften this principle. He confronts it. Laziness produces poverty. In the book of Proverbs, he says the lazy person suffers need because they avoid effort. And here is an uncomfortable question. Have you ever seen someone build greatness through procrastination? Probably not. Because success requires movement. Laziness does not only appear as refusing to work. It appears in delaying decisions, avoiding responsibility, running from discomfort. And slowly, it erodes the future. Rest is healthy. Stagnation is not. If you want a harvest, you must enter the field. If you want victory, you must act even when you do not feel motivated. So look at the areas where you have been putting things off. What do you know you should be doing? But keep delaying. Start today. Because small delays become major losses. And small consistent actions become major victories. Poverty often begins in invisible habits. But prosperity does too. Lesson 6. Seek wise counsel. So far, we've talked about faith, work, and discipline. Now Solomon takes it to another level. No one prospers alone. In the book of Proverbs, he says plans fail without counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. That is social intelligence. You can save years by learning from people who have already reached where you want to go. Mentors shorten the path. They help you avoid mistakes. They correct blind spots. But be careful. Not every opinion is wisdom. Examine the source. Does this person have results in what they teach? Does their life confirm their words? Look for people who live what they speak. And remain teachable. Pride isolates. Humility accelerates. Wise people ask questions. Foolish people assume they already know. So start choosing your influences more carefully. What voices are shaping your decisions right now? Because environment shapes ambition. And often, the next level of your life is hidden inside advice you have not heard yet. Lesson 7. Commit your work to the Lord. And here is the lesson that ties all the others together. Solomon says in the book of Proverbs, "Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established." This is deeper than it sounds. It is not merely asking God to bless your work. It is aligning your work with purpose. It is turning effort into mission. When faith, diligence, generosity, discipline, and wisdom are placed before God, they stop being isolated strategies and become direction. This is the climax. Because now it is no longer just about prospering. It is about prospering on a foundation. Do your work as someone serving a greater purpose. Honor principles in small decisions. Work with integrity. Build with vision. Because when your plans are aligned, there is stability. And success without foundation can collapse. But established success remains. And perhaps this is Solomon's greatest lesson. True wealth is not merely built by you. It is sustained by God. If you look closely, all 7 of these lessons point to one central truth. Prosperity does not begin with money. It begins with decisions. When you trust God instead of money. When you work with diligence. When you live with generosity. When you avoid traps like debt and laziness. When you seek wisdom. And commit your work to the Lord. Something begins to change. Your mindset changes. Your choices change. Your future changes. And perhaps this is the greatest teaching of King Solomon. Good decisions, guided by principles and aligned with God, can transform an ordinary person into someone wise, stable, and prosperous. True wealth is not merely having more. It is building a life that lasts. And if you apply even one of these lessons consistently, your life can begin moving in a new direction today. If this video brought value to you, share it right now with someone who needs to hear these lessons. Send it to a friend. Send it to your family. Send it to someone seeking growth, wisdom, or prosperity. And tell me in the comments, which of these 7 lessons spoke to you the most? Was it trusting God, diligence, avoiding debt, or committing your work to the Lord? I want to read your answer. And if this message impacted you, leave a comment. It helps strengthen this message and allows more people to receive these teachings. And may God bless your life, your home, your work, and your family with wisdom, peace, and prosperity. I'll see you in the next video.